AI never sleeps, and this week has been absolutely insane. The best AI 3D model generator just dropped. We have a new AI that can edit videos with just text, and this is free and offline. We have another free AI video tool that can transfer the movements of one video onto another character, including facial expressions and hand movements. You can seamlessly replace anyone in a video with another character. We have not one, not two, but 3 new state-of-the-art text-to-speech models that can even handle different emotions and accents. We have a new AI image editor that competes with Nano Banana and Seedream. This allows you to micro-edit certain parts of the image into whatever you want. We have a new open-source deep research tool which can autonomously do really long and multi-step research. The crazy thing is, this is really small, but it even beats larger proprietary models like OpenAI's deep research. Google just added some incredible AI features into Google Chrome and a lot more, so let's jump right in. Thanks to HubSpot for sponsoring this video. First up, Alibaba releases a super powerful video generator called Wan Animate. This is based off of Wan 2.2, which is currently the best open source video generator out there. But here's what makes Wan Animate even better. This can basically transfer the movement of an existing video onto a new character, and this includes the entire body movement as well as face and hand movements and lip sync. So here are some examples. Notice that it precisely copies the expressions and movements from the original reference video. This can also replace characters in an existing video while preserving the background. So here's an example.
Rick Sorkin? Excuse me, Mr. Sorkin, you are 5 minutes late. Is there a reason why I should let you in?
I'm just trying to ditch the cops, okay? I don't really care if you let me in or not.
Mr. Spector will be right with you.
What?
Can I get you anything? A coffee or just a bottle of water?
How insane is that? It also, blends the new character in seamlessly with the original background. So you don't have to worry about lighting or white balance. Everything just blends in seamlessly. Here are some other examples for your reference, which shows you how this is able to replicate not only entire body movements, but also hands and fingers and facial expressions. And this doesn't just have to work with realistic humans. This also works with different creatures, or this also works with other animation styles like this. Here are some ridiculous examples on how you can seamlessly replace a character in an existing video.
不是，这是华卓斯基家的格言，我爸告诉我的，刚好在这座湖还有这艘船上。
How crazy is that? Everything is super accurate. We don't get any deformations or warping like previous video generators. The quality and accuracy of this are incredible. And if you compare this with other similar tools like Animate Anyone or Wan Vase, which I've gone over on my channel before, notice that this new one, Wan Animate, is just way better. Also note in the bottom left corner, Runway Act 2, which is a paid and pretty expensive model, is just absolute trash. The character isn't even really moving. Here's another example for your reference. It's a pretty complex motion, but Wan Animate handles this the best. So with this tool, now anyone can act out their own AI movies. You can just film yourself acting out any scene and then plug it through this AI to transfer your movements onto any character. This is a super powerful tool. The awesome thing is, if you scroll up to the top of the page, they've released everything already. God bless the Alibaba Tongyi team. So if you click on this GitHub repo and you scroll way down, this contains all the instructions on how to download and run Wan Animate locally on your computer. Now, if you check out their Hugging Face repository, note that the total size of everything is 72 gigabytes. I assume you'll need at least 40 gigabytes of VRAM in order to run the model. However, because this is open source, we are really quickly starting to see some compressed GGUF versions available. Note that currently, at the time of this recording, here it says it's highly experimental and probably still broken. For me, I know that Comfy UI is working on an official workflow for Wan Animate, so that's what I'm waiting on. Once they release this official workflow, I'll definitely do a full review and installation tutorial on Wan Animate. So stay tuned for that. For now, if you're interested in reading further, all the links are up here, so I'll link to this main page in the description below. Equally as impressive is this new AI video editor called Lucy Edit. This is by Descartes and it's free and open source and insanely fast. This is basically like a nano banana where you can prompt this AI and edit any element of the video with just text. This is incredibly easy and powerful for micro editing certain aspects of a video. As you can see here, you can easily change entire characters in a video to something else, or their clothing or appearance, just with natural language. The awesome thing is you can try this out right now. So let's click on Playground, and over here, let's first upload our own video. So I'm gonna upload this, and then let's change his tie to red. Notice that you can sign up for a free account and you do get 2,000 credits to play around with. And one generation here using the Pro version at 480p costs 75 credits. If you want to generate 720p, that's going to cost double. So for now, let's just go with 480p and then click generate. And here is what you get. How cool is that? You can play around with this further, like changing his hair color, changing his entire outfit, or just replacing this man with a completely new character. This is an incredibly powerful semantic video editor. Now, notice that here they offer two different versions, Dev and Pro. Presumably Pro is going to be better quality, but the awesome thing is they've released the Dev version. So on this GitHub repo, which I'll link to in the description below, if you scroll down a bit, here they've released a full Comfy UI workflow where you can use Lucy Edit Dev locally on your computer. So they even include two different weights. This one is more quantized and compressed, and so you can actually start installing and using this offline. And then if I click into their Hugging Face repo, notice that the compressed one is only 10 gigabytes in size, so this should be able to work if you have like 12 gigabytes of VRAM or more. And notice that this is just their official version. I'm sure there's going to be even more compressed versions of this in the near future. Anyways, I'm definitely going to do a full installation tutorial and review on this, so stay tuned for that. For now, if you're interested in reading further, I'll link to this main page in the description below. Next up, Tencent Hunyuan, which has created Hunyuan 3D. This is definitely one of the best, if not the best, AI 3D model generators out there, just released an even better version. Hunyuan 3D 3. This features 3 times higher precision and way better resolution, enabling you to generate what they call Ultra HD models with insane detail. This can also produce really realistic faces with natural looking contours and also realistic body poses. It's really good at capturing everything very accurately. For other 3D model generators, they often have problems like distorted features or really stiff poses, but Hunyuan 3D 3.0 solves all of this. The texture mapping is also improved significantly. Now, you can just input one image and it would generate a complete 3D model of the character. Now, of course, in order to do that, it needs to predict and fill in any parts that are missing from the original image, such as the back of the character. But this AI is able to do this and kind of guess what the other parts of the character would look like very accurately. So I must say this is currently the best 3D model generator you can use right now. And best of all, you can try it for free. So I'm going to link to this page in the description below. You just need to sign up for a free account. So simply enter your email here to receive a verification code. And then once you're in, you can start generating 3D models using version 3. So first of all, let me just right click and then translate everything to English. Basically, here is where you would just enter a prompt to generate a 3D model. And then here's image to 3D model, Here's where you can choose to upload one image or multiple images of your character at different angles to give it even more accuracy. And then here's where you would select the model. Of course, yes, we will go with version 3. Here's where you would set the model face count. So of course, the higher the face count, the more detailed the model will be, but it's gonna be larger and take up more data. And that's pretty much it. So let's say we upload this photo of this character. Notice that this is just a 2D drawing, but here is what we get. Look at the insane details and accuracy of this 3D model. And not only is it able to generate, the shape of the character, but also fill in the texture of this model appropriately. This is just so damn good. Or here's another example. If your input image is this, here is what we get. Notice that it's able to preserve all the facial features, and it's also able to predict the back of the character like this. Super impressive. So if you're interested in trying this out, I'll link to this page in the description below. Notice that once you sign up for free, you do get like 20 free credits, which you can use for any generation. This is definitely the best AI 3D model generator you can use right now, so definitely give this a shot if you're into 3D modeling. Also this week we have some really cool free and open source image tools released. So this first one is called SRPO by Tencent. So they basically took one of the previous leading AI image models called Flux, and they fine-tuned it further with their own data and training method to make it even better. In fact, they claim that it improves the realism and aesthetic quality of the images by 3 times over the original Flux model. So here are some example generations. Here's a close-up of a white flower, and as you can see, this does look very realistic. Or here's a small blue-gray butterfly on a white and yellow flower. And again, as you can see, this looks very realistic. This doesn't have that very plastic and polished vibe that you get with the original Flux model. Or here's another example where we have a gray tabby cat resting on a wooden log under bright sunlight. I mean, it's pretty much impossible to tell that this was AI generated. This just looks like a normal amateur photo. Or here's an orange tabby cat looking down like this. Here's a regular woman with dark skin and short black hair with a yellow floral dress. Notice that this doesn't have that perfect Flux face. She just looks like an average woman, and this looks like a really average and real photo. Or here's another generation of this traditional Chinese building, and again, notice that the aesthetic of this looks super real, as if this was just taken by a normal camera. Here's another landscape example. This looks so realistic. And then here are 2 young ladies at a dinner table. Notice the faces look less plastic and fake than the original Flux model, which for your reference looks something like this. Now, it can do much more than just realistic photos, so it's also really good at paintings and Renaissance art and other art styles. So here's one example. Here's another example of the famous Starry Night painting. Now, interestingly, if you prompt it with girl with a pearl earring.jpg, here is what you get. Pretty cool. Notice that this is not the original photo. This is an AI generated photo of the painting. Or here's a digital line art sketch of a Japanese schoolgirl, and here is what you get. This also looks very real. Apparently, it's also able to generate gameplay scenes like this, or a scene from a horror film like this. Notice that the realism and aesthetic quality just looks way better than the original Flux model. And then here's an example of some Renaissance art. Now, if you compare this new SRPO technique with another recent model called Flux Korea, which is fine-tuned to generate really realistic and amateur images like this, notice that SRPO does even better. So if you look at these charts, notice that SRPO wins over Flux Korea most of the time. By the way, Flux Korea is also really good. So if you want to learn more about that, see this video for a full installation tutorial. But anyways, back to here, the nice thing is they've released everything already. So if you scroll up to the top of the page, here's the Hugging Face link to the models, plus here is the GitHub repo, which if you click into this, it contains all the instructions on how to download and run this locally on your computer. They've even released a workflow for you to use this in Comfy UI. But here's the thing, if you click into their official Hugging Face repo, notice that the model is almost 50 gigabytes in size. So in theory, you're gonna need like 50 gigabytes of VRAM in order to run this, which I assume most of you don't have. Fortunately, because this is open source, some kind folks have already provided some GGUFs or more compressed versions of this which can run on lower VRAM. So for example, this Q2 one is only 4 gigabytes in size, so you can run this with as low as like 6 gigabytes of VRAM. Anyways, all the links are up here, so if you're interested in reading further, I'll link to this main page in the description below. Now that's not the only state-of-the-art image model that was released this week. So we also have another one called UMO by Bytedance, and this is extremely good for style and reference transfer. This AI basically allows you to generate photos of reference characters or objects. So for example, let's say you have this dude and this can. Well, you can generate a photo of the dude holding the can like this. Or here's another example where you can get this elf to wear this pink t-shirt, plus also add the text UXO team onto the t-shirt like this. Now, instead of a character or object, you can also upload multiple characters and add them to the same photo like this. Or here's another example, and another one. Or here's another example where you can get all three of these characters to play poker like this. Here they're comparing UMO with a previous tool that they released called Uno, and as you can see, UMO is just way better at transferring your reference character's face onto the photo, as you can see with these examples. The nice thing is, at the top here, they've actually released some free Hugging Face spaces for you to try this out online. So notice that there's actually two different versions of UMO. One is based off of this other tool that they released called Uno, and the other version is based off of OmniGen 2, which is another semantic image editing model, which I featured a few months ago. Now, there are some subtle differences between each version, so it really depends on what you prefer. I'm just going to try out this OmniGen 2 version, and here's what the interface looks like. It's pretty self-explanatory, so here is where you would enter your prompt describing the image you want to generate, and then here is where you can upload up to 3 reference images of characters or objects. And here's where you would enter your negative prompt. These are all the things that you want to exclude from your image. And then here's where you would specify the dimensions of your generation. So for example, I can upload these 3 characters and then put them all in the same image, and then here is what we get. Or here's another example where I can use these 3 characters and get them to sit in a classroom, and here's the result. Now, in addition to these free Hugging Face spaces, which you can try out online, they've also released a GitHub repo, which if you scroll down a bit contains all the instructions on how to download and run this locally on your computer. Plus, they even offer some comfy UI workflows, so you can just download these images and then drag and drop it onto your comfy UI interface to load up the pre-built workflow. They have not specified the minimum VRAM requirement for this, but if you click into the Hugging Face repo, notice that the models for each version are pretty small. So even the Uno version is less than 2 gigabytes. So you should be able to run this on most consumer grade GPUs. Anyways, all the links are up here, so if you're interested in reading further, I'll link to this main page in the description below. Next up, we have some new state-of-the-art open source models that were released this week. One of them is called Ling Flash 2.0 by Inclusion AI. And this one is actually pretty crazy. So this is a mixture of experts model with 100 billion total parameters. Think of this as like a team of agents working together to help you solve a task. However, even though this is the total parameter count, notice that it only uses 6.1 billion active parameters. These are basically the parameters that are used when you are using the model. So it's very efficient. Here it says that it achieves state-of-the-art performance among models that are 40 billion parameters in size, even though this one is only around 6 billion active parameters. And it's especially good in complex reasoning, code generation, and front-end development. So here are some comparisons for your reference. Ling Flash is the blue bar. Again, note that this is 6 billion active parameters, whereas they're comparing this with Qwen 3, the orange bar, which is 32 billion parameters, and Seed OSS, which is 36 billion parameters, and then even larger models. But as you can see, for most of these benchmarks, like graduate level science questions, or competitive math, or solving visual puzzles, notice that on average, Ling Flash beats the rest of these larger models. And then here we have like coding and health related questions, finance reasoning, and creative writing. And again, on average, Ling Flash beats the rest of these larger models. Now, because of its unique architecture and because this is very efficient, it only uses 6 billion parameters, this is blazing fast. So here's a comparison with the same prompt of Ling Flash with Bytedance's Seed OSS 36B, and note how much faster Ling Flash 2 is. Here it says it can achieve over 200 tokens per second. The awesome thing is they've released this already, so you can download this on Hugging Face or ModelScope. Plus here it contains all the instructions on how to download and run this locally on your computer. Anyways, all the info is on this page, so I'll link to this in the description below if you're interested in reading further. Alright, next up, this open source model is even crazier. So Alibaba just released Tongyi Deep Research. This is a deep research AI agent which matches the performance of OpenAI's deep research. Now this isn't just any AI model, but an agentic large language model, which means that it can autonomously do multiple steps like searching the web and running code and synthesizing information for you, and it can think and work for a really long time to help you solve a particular task. This is similar to OpenAI's deep research as well as Google's Gemini deep research. And if you look at all these benchmarks which test an AI's knowledge or agentic capabilities, notice that this new Tongyi Deep Research, which is the purple bar, on average even outperforms the closed proprietary models like Gemini Deep Research or OpenAI Deep Research, as well as Claude for Sonnet. But here's the crazy thing. So this Tongyi Deep Research is a mixture of experts model with only 30 billion total parameters. So again, think of this as like a team of experts working together to help you solve a particular task. But note that when you use it, only around 3 billion parameters are activated. So this is essentially just like a 3 billion parameter model, but it even beats closed deep research models, which are at least hundreds of billions parameters, if not over 1 trillion parameters, which is pretty crazy. Like this Tongyi Deep Research is hundreds of times smaller and more efficient, but it even outperforms the other deep research models. And for even better performance, they offer this deep research heavy mode, which runs multiple agents simultaneously, each researching different parts of the query and then synthesizing all their findings together. And this enables it to handle very complex multi-step tasks without being overloaded. So here are some really tricky examples for your reference. You can get it to look for the name of a university that meets the following criteria. It has to be established between this range, plus there has to be no university established in that administrative region of the country for more than 30 years prior to its establishment. Plus, the university bill has to be passed in the immediate year following the announcement, etc., etc. The founding chancellor's husband was a doctor, and until this date, the founding chancellor had 4 children and 4 grandchildren. Plus, the founding president of the university has to also be the president of a college at the same time, etc., etc. So these are all really complex conditions that it needs to filter out. It can't just do this with one or even several Google searches. It's a really deep research task. So after doing a really long string of web searches for various search terms and then looking at the information for each university and applying the correct filters, etc., notice that it took like several minutes to complete this task. So this is not something that it can easily answer within a few seconds. But then afterwards, here is our final result. And it only found one university that fits all of this criteria, which is this one. And here is the supporting evidence. Or here's another PhD level math question, which I am too dumb to understand, but again, this is supposed to take a ton of steps, and most of the common AI models out there, which you use in regular everyday chat, are not able to solve this. So again, it has to think for a really long time and even search the web for advice, but after after a few minutes, it gives us a full comprehensive report. Anyways, the really awesome thing is they've actually released this super powerful deep research agent. I can't believe we actually have an open source model that matches the capability of, Gemini and OpenAI deep research. But as you can see, the model is already released on Hugging Face. Note that this is around 60 gigabytes in size, so you do need multiple consumer-grade GPUs to run this. And then over here, they released a GitHub repo, which contains all the instructions on how to download and run this locally on your computer. Anyways, all the links are up here, plus this page goes pretty deep into the technical details on how they designed and trained this, so if you're interested in reading further, I'll link to this main page in the description below. Are you looking to supercharge your marketing with AI? Well, you need to check out this free guide called the AI Marketing Automation Playbook from HubSpot Media and Masters in Marketing. This is your ultimate guide for streamlining workflows, boosting engagement, and driving better results with AI. This playbook is packed with actionable steps to integrate your AI into your marketing strategy. It starts with a workflow audit to pinpoint time-consuming tasks. From there, you'll get a step-by-step guide to choosing the right AI tools for your goals, whether it's lead nurturing, social media management, or personalized email campaigns. You'll discover how to use AI to automate and personalize content, saving you a ton of time. You can easily repurpose content for social media or turn blogs into short-form video. You'll also learn how to leverage AI for smarter analytics to uncover insights without drowning in data. This includes things like predictive lead scoring and automated reporting. And my favorite part, converting leads into revenue, of course. It provides actionable steps and checklists across all stages of your funnel. Start automating your marketing today and see real results. You can access this playbook completely for free using the link in the description below. This resource was made by HubSpot Media, the sponsor of this video. Also this week, in just around 2 weeks since Google released their insane image editor called Nano Banana, and ByteDance releases pretty much the same thing called Seedream 4.0, we have yet another contender this week called Reve. Now, Reve has existed before already. This was one of the best image generators out there, but this week they released a new update which allows you to edit images very seamlessly. So you can log in or sign up for free, and you do get some free credits for some generations. And once you're in, it's pretty simple to use. Here is where you can ask it to generate an image, or you can upload an existing image and prompt it to edit the image however you like. So for example, let's turn this into daytime and then press enter. As you can see here, it proceeds to generate 3 different variations. And here is what you get. Now notice that her pose and her face plus her hair do change quite a bit in the generation. So this is not as good as Nano Banana or Seedream 4.0 in terms of, consistency and preservation. Or here's another example. Let's upload this photo and turn her hair blonde and her dress red. Let's see if it can execute this without changing the details of the original photo. And in this instance, at least 2 of the 3 photos were actually pretty good. So for your reference, here is what the final image looks like. So here's the before and here's the after. Now I also tested some really tricky prompts which Seedream and or Nano Banana were able to handle. So for example, if this is my input photo, I wanted to get it to make a fisheye overhead view of the scene, and notice that Seedream was able to handle this beautifully. However, for Reve, although it did make a fisheye overhead view, it completely removed the character and generated a completely different scene. Here's another really tricky test for model consistency. If I upload this Destiny Gundam and get to make a model sheet of this character with a front, back, and side view, notice that Seedream and Nano Banana were able to handle this pretty well. But for Reve, if you look closely, the details of this Gundam are kind of messed up. Like, there's a lot of noise and weird lines everywhere along this generation. So in terms of character consistency, it's not as good as Seedream or Nano Banana. And then here's an even crazier test which Seedream was able to pull off. So I basically went to Google Maps and turned on the satellite layer and took a random screenshot of this place. And I asked it to make a photo of the front of this building. For your reference, here is what the actual building looks like. And as you can see, Seedream was the only one that was able to handle this, whereas both Nano Banana and Reve just generated some random buildings. By the way, if you haven't heard of Seedream, this is currently the best image generator and editor out there. Definitely see this video where I do a full deep dive on Seedream 4.0. But anyways, back to Reve, here's where it's actually better. So you can upload any image like this, and then at the top here, if you press edit, it will actually automatically detect all the objects and their positions in the image. So let's give this a few seconds for it to run. And then afterwards, you can see that there's a young adult here, another young adult here, and here, plus this table, cafe, table, etc. And afterwards, you can actually drag and adjust the size and proportions of each thing. So for example, you can drag this table to be a bit larger like this, and then click apply edit. And here is what you get. So here's the before, here's the after. How cool is that? You can also expand the details of each object or person. So for example, let's click on this young adult and expand this, and you can see the face of the adult and the hand of the adult here, which you can adjust further. Or on this table, there is a cup of coffee, and there's another coffee over here. There's a croissant and a smartphone over here. So for example, let's click on this coffee cup and then click on this pen icon, and instead of white, let's turn this into a red coffee cup on a saucer, and then click apply edits. And here is what we get. How cool is that? So this feature is really good in helping you micro edit certain parts of the image without affecting the rest of the image. Whereas, for the base model of Nano Banana or Seedream, you don't really have this positional control. Here's another example. I can select this woman and drag her down here and also adjust the proportion of this so it makes her flatter. And here is what we get. How cool is that? Or here's another example where you can select an area on your canvas where you want to add a particular object, and it would add the objects to that area without affecting the rest of your photo. So again, this feature allows you to really micro edit your images. Or here's another example where we can only select the golden retriever and turn it into a black panther, and here is what you get. Notice that it only changes the dog without affecting the rest of the photo. Here's another cool example where you can just select this fish and then drag the outline, which would basically resize the fish. So definitely check out Reve. You can currently sign up and use this for free. If you're interested, I'll link to this in the description below. In humanoid robot news, first of all, we have this really cool demo of this robotic hand called the Wuji hand by Wuji Tech. And this is actually a super flexible and powerful hand, which is designed to work just like the human hand. So notice that the scale is 1:1. This is pretty much the same size as the human hand. This is extremely dexterous with 20 active degrees of freedom, around 4 degrees per finger. And as you can see here, this enables extremely fine motor control. This is designed to closely mimic human hand movements and behavior. It also integrates high-resolution tactile sensors across much of the hand. And this allows for very sensitive touch feedback that enhances grasping and manipulation ability. Notice that for the demos you're seeing right now, this is teleoperated, so someone is behind the scenes moving this remotely. So this is not autonomous, but as you can see, it's still very impressive. This can spin a pen, this can hold chopsticks, or even this really thin plastic film very firmly, or this really tiny object, as you can see here. But it's also super powerful. So here it's like lifting a 5-kilogram dumbbell with just 2 fingers, and it's able to maintain a very firm grip. Or here's an even more impressive demo where this is able to grip a 20-kilogram water jug like this. And apparently, even if you smash it, it doesn't break and it remains fully functional. This is the first time I've heard of them, but this Wuji hand demo is pretty impressive. Also this week, one of the best AI music generators, Suno, just dropped a short preview of their version 5, which they say is coming soon. So it's just 15 seconds. Let me play you the clip.
I'm singing a fugue. I am singing a folk. It's what I like.
So that's all we have for now, but they tend to release things pretty quickly. So I would expect within like 1 to 2 weeks, we are going to be able to use V5. And especially the vocals, it does seem to be much better quality than the previous version. It seems more dynamic and expressive and human. So I'm really looking forward to testing this out when they release it. Also this week, we have several state-of-the-art text-to-speech generators and voice cloners which can even incorporate emotions and different accents. So one of them is called Index TTS2, and this is really good at expressive generations. You can control the emotion of your output using these emotion sliders in this interface. Now, I already did a full review and tutorial on this, so I'm not going to repeat too much here. Definitely see this video if you want to learn more. But in addition to Index TTS2, we have yet another state-of-the-art text-to-speech generator that was released this week. This one is called VoxCPM, and this can generate speech that sounds really natural and expressive. It's also really good at cloning a voice with just a few seconds of reference audio. So for example, if you use this input voice, let me play this for you first.
This man looked exactly the same, except that now the roles were reversed.
Notice that it's only 4 seconds, but it can basically clone this voice and get it to speak out this transcript. Let's hear what that sounds like.
He is always confident when presenting his ideas to the team, speaking with clarity and composure. His assured manner not only helps convey his points effectively, but also inspires trust and engagement among his colleagues.
So as you can hear, this sounds exactly like the input voice. Or here's another example. Here's the input voice.
In short, we embarked on a mission to make America great again for all Americans.
So obviously that is Trump's voice. Here's the transcript that we want to get it to speak out. And here's the result.
Learning a new language opens doors to different cultures and perspectives, allowing individuals to gain deeper insights into diverse traditions, values, and ways of thinking. It fosters cross-cultural understanding, enhances global communication, and broadens one's intellectual horizons.
And as you can hear, this does sound like the reference audio clip, which is kind of a monotone version of Trump. Now, even if your input voice is a different language, this also works. So for example, here's our input voice, which is speaking Chinese.
多云有阵雨 暴雷有大风.
Well, we can still get this voice to speak English like this. So here's the transcript and here's the result.
She smiled brightly, making everyone in the room feel comfortable and relaxed. Her warm expression seemed to dissolve any tension, encouraging others to speak openly and share their thoughts. The atmosphere quickly became friendly and welcoming, fostering a sense of camaraderie among the group.
It could even detect that, this was Chinese and add a Chinese accent to his English. Pretty cool. Now, here's the most impressive part about this new VoxCPM. It can automatically detect the emotion of your transcript. So for example, here's the input voice.
Enough, you a foolish chatter.
And then if the transcript is this, well, it can detect the context of this and assume that this is going to be said in an angry tone. And here's what we get.
Who the hell you think you are talking to?
So it's pretty good. Or here's a surprised example. Here's the input reference voice.
A lady is on Alice's lap.
And then here's the transcript. And then here's the result.
Goodness, it's the Queen of Hearts herself, and she looks anything but pleased.
And indeed, the generation sounds very surprised. It's also great at detecting and cloning different dialects and accents. So for example, here's the reference input voice, which has an Indian accent.
It's quite funny, you're seeing just a picture, okay, I'm gonna marry that guy or girl who is there in the picture.
And then here's the transcript, and here's the generation.
The only person you are destined to become is the person you decide to be. Don't let the fear of striking out keep you from playing the game. It is our choices, Harry, that show what we truly are, far more than our abilities. The best way to predict your future is to create it.
So as you can hear, it's really good at cloning this person's voice, including his accent. It can even clone the background noise or condition of your reference audio. So for example, here's the input clip. So you can see it's a pretty noisy environment, and if you get it to speak out this text, here's the generation. So as you can hear, it's even able to clone the noisy and low quality audio from the original clip. Or here's another example. Here's the input audio.
一怒之下，他打伤了老板，然后远逃他乡。
And then here's the result.
生活不是等待风暴过去，而是要学会在雨中跳舞。
Here's a really interesting feature. You don't even need to input a reference voice. And if you don't, if you just give it a transcript, it's able to kind of automatically detect the context and then use what it thinks is the most appropriate voice to speak this out. So here's the result from this transcript.
A black hole is a region of space-time where gravity is so strong that nothing, not even light, can escape.
Or here's another example.
Deep in the Amazon rainforest, the jaguar, a solitary and powerful predator, moves with silent grace.
You can even add phonemes in your transcript like this. So without doing this, if you give it a super long scientific word, maybe it has trouble pronouncing this. So here is without the phoneme.
The patient was diagnosed with Numen ultramicroscopics silicovolcanoconiosis,
which is actually pretty good already. But if you input this, here's what we get.
The patient was diagnosed with Numino ultramicroscopic silicovolcanoconiosis.
The nice thing is, if you scroll up to the top of the page, they've released a free Hugging Face space for you to try this out online. So here's what the interface looks like. Here is where you would upload a reference voice. So I'm going to upload a clip by Jensen Huang. Let me play this for you first. And notice that it also automatically extracts the transcript of my original clip.
How is it possible that NVIDIA became so big building GPUs? And so there's an impression that this is what a GPU looks like. Now, this is a GPU. This is one of the most advanced GPUs in the world, but this is a gamer GPU.
And then here is where you would enter the transcript which you want it to speak out. So let's try this tricky prompt, which has a few words with multiple pronunciations. And let's see if it can figure this out. Make sure you enter your transcript here and not here. Notice that this should be the transcript of your uploaded clip. Anyways, let's click generate. And here's what we get. This was really quick, so it took less than 10 seconds to generate this.
The record producer refused to record the band's new single. The wind was too strong to wind the kite string.
And it nailed the pronunciation. Now, in addition to the free Hugging Face space, this is free and open source for you to download offline. So they've released a GitHub repo, which if you click into it and you scroll down a bit, this contains all the instructions on how to download and run this locally on your computer. Now, the nice thing is this is super tiny. This is only 0.5 billion parameters. And if you click on the Hugging Face page, notice that the total file size of everything in this folder is less than 2 gigabytes in size. So this is definitely able to be run on most consumer-grade GPUs, even if you have low VRAM. The really cool thing is because of its size and efficiency, here it says if you have something like a 4090, this has quite a low latency, so you can even use this for real-time applications. Anyways, all the links are up here, so I'll link to this main page in the description below if you want to read further. Now, VoxCPM isn't the only text-to-speech generator that was released this week, so we have yet another one called FireRed TTS. This is also a free and open source text-to-speech generator, which is state-of-the-art. And the nice thing about this one is it supports up to 4 speakers and generations that are 3 minutes long. It also has multilingual support, so this includes languages like all of these. The nice thing is they've also released a free Hugging Face space for you to try this out online. So here's where you would upload 1 or 2 voices, and then here's where you would enter your transcript. Pretty easy to use. So again, for the first test, I'm just gonna input Jensen Huang. It's the same audio as before. Let me just play you the first few seconds.
How is it possible that NVIDIA became so big building GPUs? And so there's an impression that this is what a GPU looks like.
All right. Now for this, you do need to also enter the transcript of your input audio clip. So let me paste this in, and then for speaker 2, let's upload Sam Altman's voice. Let me play this for you.
That's definitely a change to my worldview. I think kind of like the history of scientific discovery is that humans are less and less at the center.
And then again, for speaker 2, I also need to paste in what he's actually saying in the reference audio. And then after that, here is where I would paste in the transcript of them talking. And then for the transcript, I need to format it like this, where this denotes speaker 1 and this denotes speaker 2. And let's just use this to keep it short. Notice that for here I have some relatively tricky words to pronounce like OpenAI and NVIDIA. Let's see if it can handle this. So I'm going to click generate. Alright, and here's what we get.
Combining OpenAI's software innovations with NVIDIA's hardware advances can reshape AI in the coming years.
Agreed. It's an exciting era for AI and computing partnerships. Let's keep the dialogue open as things progress.
And this sounds really good. It does sound like Jensen talking with Sam Altman. So that's just one example. Now, because they claim that this can handle multiple languages, let's try another example like this, where we have Jensen speak Japanese and then Sam speak Spanish. Let's click generate. Alright, and here's what we get.
Yep.
Cuando termine de estudiar, quiero viajar por todo el mundo y conocer diferentes culturas.
And it's not bad. You can even hear that it kind of adds an American accent to both the Japanese and the Spanish, probably because it detects that, the input reference audio clips are American English. In addition to this free Hugging Face space, the nice thing is they've released everything already. So at the top of the page is a link to their GitHub repo. So if you click into this and you scroll down a bit, this contains all the instructions on how to download and run this locally on your computer. They did not specify the minimum VRAM requirements for this, but if you click on Hugging Face, notice that the files here are quite large, definitely much larger than VoxCPM. So like these files are over 8 gigabytes in size, so you might need to have a GPU with more VRAM like 12 or 16 gigabytes in order to run this. Anyways, all the links are up here, so if you're interested in reading further, I'll link to this main page in the description below. Also this week, Luma Labs, which is one of the earliest players in the AI video space, just released their latest model called Ray3. Now here they say Ray3 is capable of thinking and reasoning. As I'll show you in a second, it actually has like the step-by-step thinking process as it generates your video. And this offers a significant improvement in terms of physics and consistency. It's also, they claim, the first AI video generator to output 16-bit high dynamic range color. This basically captures a much wider and smoother range of colors and brightness. So this would look more detailed with more true-to-life colors and smoother gradients. So this gives you more flexibility and precision if you want to edit the video further without losing much quality. Now, what I'm showing you right now is their official show reel, so of course the demos are going to be quite cherry-picked. But as you can see, these videos are pretty damn good. It is a significant improvement compared to the previous Ray 2. The awesome thing is you can sign up for a free account and try a few generations of Ray 3 for free. So I'll link to this page in the description below. Simply click on try now at the top here. Once you log in, to create a video, simply click on keyframe with Ray 3. And then down here is where you would enter a prompt to specify what you want to generate. You can also upload an image to use as a reference frame. Now notice that this draft mode over here basically generates a lower quality video, but it's way faster. If you turn this off, then it generates a high resolution video, but it takes longer. And then down here is where you can select Ray 3 as the video generation model. And then also the aspect ratio over here and the duration. However, notice that for the free plan, it only allows for 5-second videos. Also, it only allows you to generate low quality videos. If you want to generate 720p or 1080p, then you do need to upgrade to a paid plan. Here are some really challenging prompts, which I tested. The first one is 2 kung fu masters fighting on a city rooftop, rain and lightning in the background. And notice that here, it's kind of thinking and planning how to generate the scene and what to generate. Kind of like a thinking large language model like DeepSeek R1. Now, finally, it gives me this generation, and the physics aren't too bad. This does look like a legit fight scene from far away. Like everything is anatomically correct, and the actions are pretty fast and smooth. However, if you look closely, there's still a lot of noise and errors. The face and the hands and the edges are often distorted. So in terms of quality and consistency, it's not really as good with the state-of-the-art video models out there like Hilo or VO3. Here's another really tricky prompt. A gymnast performs a flip on a balance beam, and unfortunately, its generation was pretty awful, as you can see here. I mean, this is even worse than some of the older video models out there. Here's another really tricky prompt. A man riding a unicycle and juggling red balls. However, again, note that the physics aren't really correct, so it's not really able to generate the process of juggling. As you can see here, the balls plus how they move are just completely incorrect. And then here's another really tricky prompt. A skier launches off a snow ramp, twisting and flipping acrobatically in the air. However, again, the physics and accuracy of this generation are just really bad. It looks like this person only has one ski, or it's kind of like a snowboard instead of a ski, plus the anatomy is also kind of wrong. It's definitely not as good as the leading video models out there like Hilo O2, which is awesome by the way, and VO3 and Kling 2.1, as you can see here. Notice that these look just way better than Ray3. Now, of course, we have to test out this prompt, Will Smith eating spaghetti. And for this one, it did pretty well. So as long as there's like no uncommon or tricky movements, if it's just a dude eating spaghetti or a regular portrait or mid-shot video, then Luma seems to do just fine. So here is indeed Will Smith eating spaghetti. And notice that this is just text to video. I didn't even need to upload an image of Will Smith, and it was actually able to generate Will Smith. So I'll continue testing this some more, and if it's worthy, I'll do a full review video on it. But just from my preliminary test, it doesn't seem to be as good as the leading models out there. That being said, Luma Ray3 is free to try out, so definitely give this a shot and see if this is the vibe you're looking for. I'll link to this page in the description below if you're interested in reading further. Also this week, Google continues to ship exciting and actually useful AI products. So we have some new features in the latest version of Google Chrome. First of all, you can directly use Gemini in Google Chrome. So there's going to be this Gemini button at the top right corner, which you can click to expand this chatbot window, and here is where you can basically talk to Gemini and ask it any questions you want. Notice that you can also refer to the current tab that's open and ask it questions about the page you're on. So here's a really cool use case. If you're on Gmail, for example, and you're reading this email, well, you can pull up Gemini and get it to buy the ingredients from the list that are listed in the email. And it actually knows to scan the email for the list and then go to Instacart and then search for all the ingredients and actually purchase the ingredient. So this is looking more and more like an agentic internet browser, which is pretty cool. Notice that at any point in time, you can also choose to take over the task. So for example, if it's like proceeding to checkout, but you notice that it's picking a ton of items which you don't want, then obviously you want to pause it and take over before you actually initiate the purchase. Here's another cool use case. So it can also inspect your browsing history. So you can ask it like, what were those team building activities that I was looking at last week? And it was able to look at your history and pull all the relevant results. And then you can ask it follow-up questions and it will answer you accordingly. Here's another really useful use case. Let's say you're on YouTube and you're watching this hour-long video. Well, instead of watching the whole damn thing, you can just ask Gemini to give you a summary of the video like this. You can now also access AI mode by typing directly in the URL bar at the top. Now, I already talked about this AI mode before. It should be built into your search results on Google. For example, when I search for best standing desk, notice that I have this extra AI mode tab, and if I click it, it's basically going to give me these AI generated results like this, which kind of works like Perplexity. It gives me relevant links which I can inspect further, and I can also ask it follow-up questions down here. This is of course all powered by Gemini. But now the update here is instead of going first to google.com and then typing your prompt, you can just type your prompt in the URL bar and click on AI mode there. There are also a ton of really cool security updates in the latest version of Chrome. But in a nutshell, that is basically the most noteworthy AI features that are built into the latest version of Google Chrome. Now here it says starting today, they are going to roll this out to Mac and Windows users in the US. And they're also going to bring Gemini in Chrome to mobile in the US very soon. They didn't mention when this feature will be released for other countries, but if you're not in the US, you can still use a VPN to access these features right now. If you want to get it to like buy groceries or do other actions autonomously, well, this feature is not available yet, so they say that it's going to be introduced in the coming months. Anyways, if you're interested in reading further, I'll link to this main page in the description below. And that sums up all the highlights in AI this week. Let me know in the comments what you think of all of this. Which piece of news was your favorite, and which tool are you most looking forward to trying out? As always, I will be on the lookout for the top AI news and tools to share with you. So if you enjoyed this video, remember to like, share, subscribe, and stay tuned for more content. Also, there's just so much happening in the world of AI every week. I can't possibly cover everything on my YouTube channel. So to really stay up to date with all that's going on in AI, be sure to subscribe to my free weekly newsletter. The link to that will be in the description below. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.